Welcome to Take Two with Freddy. Real talk about second chances, real life, and the power of rewriting your story. I'm Freddy Freundlich, entrepreneur, mentor, and storyteller. And here's the deal, if I didn't walk it, I don't talk it. Each week, we'll spend about 20 minutes laughing, reflecting, and hopefully walking away a little more inspired than when we came in. So, what's on my mind today? Lazy summer days. You guys all know the feeling. The warm breeze, long evenings, maybe the smell of a barbecue in the air, or the sound of splashing around the pool. And just saying those words probably bring up a memory for you because summer has a way of sticking to us. I'd like you guys to take a moment and think about what actually comes to mind when I talk about the summer. For you, is it a beach day, a campfire, riding bikes until the street lights come on? Take a moment, close your eyes if you can, and just hold the picture for 10 seconds. But really see it. What do you hear? What do you smell? What are you feeling? Take that all in because that's what we're going to be talking about today. Is why those little flashes matter so much. I've asked myself why summer nostalgia is so powerful. And I found it very interesting in over the years talking to different kinds of people. And it doesn't really matter where they grew up or what kind of childhood they had. And again, let's be honest, some of us have had harder childhoods than others. I talk from my own personal experience. And in fact, those of you who have read my book, Born on the Right Side of the Tracks, know why I say that I came from let's say, an out of the box childhood. But regardless, what I found out is that almost everyone carries with them at least one warm summertime memory. And there's a reason that these memories, these specific memories, really hit so hard. Science tells us that smell and sound are memory triggers because they're wired into our emotional brain. That's why a simple smell of sunscreen or the sound of an old song can take us back decades in an instant. It's a bit funny actually because you guys may not remember what you did last Wednesday, but you'll remember the sound of that ice cream truck coming down the street with the bells ringing from maybe 30 years ago. Or the way the grass felt under your feet when school was out. Or for that matter, just knowing that school was out for the summer and you didn't have to go back until end of August, September, whenever. So if I can just ask you for a moment to think about it, and what was your ice cream truck moment? What was the one thing that said to you louder than anything else, it's summertime? As adults, those memories sometimes will sneak back to us when we're not even looking for them or we're not using our thought process about anything. All of a sudden, you'll hear a song from way back when, or you'll taste something, or a certain smell hits you, or you just find yourself walking by the beach or a pool. Regardless of what it is, all of a sudden, you're hit with something, and suddenly you're 9 years old again. And I'm just wondering why it is that we crave this. Why do we try so hard to go back to those moments in the past? Now, I remember as a kid hopping on a train with my buddy, just the two of us, and heading down to the Jersey Shore. For me, this was like freedom. This was what freedom was all about. Let me paint the picture for you. First of all, please remember in those days, there were no cell phones. So that meant there were no parents who were going to bug us. There was no constant threats that we're going to get a phone call or a text from our parents asking us where we were, what we were doing. Okay, they just knew we were gone for the day. Now, we didn't even need a lot of money. In those days, $5 and you were king. So here we are, we take off on the train, which in itself was part of the magic. Sitting there, the windows down, feeling the wind, just watching the world go by. We were in heaven. We weren't just going to the Jersey Shore. We were stepping into a whole new world for one day. It was an amazing thing. And then when we finally got to Asbury Park, we see the boardwalk stretched out in front of us like a playground for kings. The arcades are buzzing with the lights and the sound. The smell of both the salt water from the ocean and the saltwater taffy, and you mix that with the popcorn and the French fries. The cotton candy is sticking to our fingers. And of course, we wash it down with a bottle of Coca Cola. Now, stuff that as a parent and a grandparent would make me cringe. But back then, we were in heaven. And I also have to add, to be honest with you, as I said before, our parents didn't have a clue what we're up to. And maybe that also adds to the fact to why it was so sweet. I think for kids, freedom with a side of mischief, well, it goes a long way. So, yeah, that was some really special memories. And I still to this day have this goosebump feeling when I think about it. But I have to be honest with you guys, even though it was really heaven, and when I say heaven, it was really heaven. I mean, now as I'm talking to you, I'm just remembering hitting the beach, feeling that hot sand burning under our feet as we dove into the cool waves. And yeah, we were like just regular old fashioned kids. And part of that was, well, we got to watch the girls go by, which was definitely part of the fun. But as I said, in truth, those days weren't every day. They actually were pretty rare and far between. And I think that's what even made them more special. And by the time we caught that late train home, we were so wiped. We were sunburned. We were completely wiped out. But you know what? We were so happy. We were in seventh heaven. And I think part of the reason also is because it was rare. It didn't happen every day. And I think that that's what probably also helped make it priceless, that we didn't do it every day. Because if things happen every day, do we treasure it in the same way? I think not. And as an aside, let me just caution you guys for that reason, be careful what we wish for. It's nice to have those special things, but we have to keep everything in perspective. But I digress. So, going back to these memories, and again, as I'm talking to you, the feelings are just overwhelming in me. But at the same time, I can't remember all the details. The feelings, that's what I'm experiencing right now as I speak to you. And that's what stayed with me and stuck with me all these years. The feelings, the freedom, the joy, the belonging. And that's what I try to keep building on in my life. In other words, stacking memories on top of memories, experiences stacked on experiences, because the truth is, I can never relive those exact days. I can keep looking for similar feelings, but in new ways. You see, I will never be 9 or 15 again, and that's just okay. But I can still enjoy these great memories and these great feelings today. And I think that we as adults make the mistake many times about trying to revive the past, to fantasize about reliving the past, to have those perfect moments. But guys, even those fantastic moments, those fantastic memories, many of the time, maybe perhaps even most of the time, they weren't really as perfect as we remember. And we sometimes tend to edit the footage. And over the years, we may find ourselves romanticizing and smoothing out those rough edges. And suddenly, that day at the lake becomes the happiest day of our childhood. But the truth really is, it doesn't really matter if we edited the footage or we didn't edit the footage. What's really important is right now the memories that came out of it and the feelings, because those memories are all we have right now. And these memories are what turn our childhood summertime into something we want to create again. Now, again, it's not about creating those memories or recreating those memories. It's about creating new memories based on our feelings from the past. So while this podcast is all about second chances, which are very real, as I've mentioned previously, do-overs do not exist. There's no such thing. Because even if we could remember every detail about the past, there's still one small problem, and that is that we're not a kid anymore. We're not 9 or 15. We are now older. We've lived a life. We've grown. And of course, we've changed. Folks, you can't recreate exact moments. And the truth is that really there's no reason to. There's no reason even to want to. The other day I had the unbelievable pleasure of taking some of my grandchildren along with one of my daughters to an amusement park. And I have to tell you, from when we first walked in, my senses were on turbo. They were all going off there. Okay. And it was the smells, the sounds, the everything. It just took me back. I just had this overwhelming, wonderful feeling. And as I told you about my earlier experience with my buddy when we would go to the Jersey Shore, I also had other experiences. In fact, I remember going with my own grandparents to an amusement park. So whether it was hanging out with my grandparents or with other friends when I got a little older, the whole picture I was experiencing with my grandkids was giving me that great warm fuzzy feeling. And as I was feeling this, I tried to picture some of the memories of the past more in detail. What struck me was that while the feelings were there, the memories weren't necessarily. I had that sense of joy and freedom that I'd had in the past, which I was just relishing in and letting it come in, but I didn't necessarily have the specific memory. And that's the key. It's never about the event itself. It's about the feelings we take from it. So we don't need to create the exact moment. because what we're really looking for, what we crave, is the emotion behind it. Now, I also have to share with you something. My 9-year-old self would have laughed and cringed at me because when I got on some of these rides, even supposedly the real easy ones, with my 6-year-old grandson, while he was having a blast, I was like, what am I doing here? My stomach was somewhere other than it should have been. And I also found myself getting a little dizzy here and there. And I realized that all the days of roller coasters are all long gone for me. But that's okay because I have memories now I'm creating and feelings I'm creating that I couldn't have imagined long ago. So it was a wonderful day. It really was. And after that long, hot, sweaty day, when we walked out of the park, we were all totally exhausted and unbelievably happy. I was in heaven. And I won't need to have to edit this because although the memories may fade a little bit, the feeling of spending time with my grandchildren will always be there. I will remember it as one of the most pleasurable days of my life. And I hope these will then be part of my grandchildren's childhood memories that they will carry on throughout their life. Now, guys, it all boils down to the fact that we are who we are. We will never be a kid again. The past is the past. And all we can do is take the lessons and the memories and the feelings from the past and just continue stacking it with new memories on top of old ones. Now, we can have similar experiences, but as similar as they are, they're different. What is relevant here is what we're looking for is the similarity in the joy. But with all that, I still ask myself, though, why do we as adults sort of have this need to keep chasing the past? Because it seems at the end of the day, it just gets us stuck. I mentioned I went a few days ago as a grandfather. Well, I remember when I was a dad. And sometimes we would just sort of, in the summertime, we didn't really plan anything specific. We just said, let's go out for the day or let's go out for the evening. And we just grabbed the kids, put together some snacks, sandwiches, drinks, put it into a cooler, got into the minivan, and we headed for some nice state park with a beautiful lake. We had no GPS in those days, no reservations, but off we went. And sometimes we had plans, sometimes we didn't have plans, sometimes the plans worked out more times than others. They didn't work out exactly as we would have. But you know what? As I look back, I'm just thinking about these terrific memories, the feelings, the days that rank up there with some of the best experiences I ever had. And the only thing I really remember, is my kids having fun, the laughter. And now I hear them when they tell their children about the wonderful times they have. And that, my friends, at the end of the day, is what sticks. Those memories are warm. The feelings are wonderful. The memories we created will be with us. Now, part of the reason I think that we keep chasing the past is because, as I said earlier, we tend to have some sort of nostalgia that where we sort of think it was sort of better in the past. But the truth is, the past wasn't necessarily any better or worse. It was what it was. And sometimes we just sort of revert to the past. As I said, we edited certain things. A lot of times we wish for something that even when it was, we weren't necessarily happy with it, but it always seems to look better in retrospect. Many times I've heard people say that, oh, I wish I was at the weight I was at 25 or had the stamina that I had at 25. We look back at a version of ourselves that even if it was real, it simply doesn't exist anymore. And that's fine. I don't even know why we're concerned about wanting something from the past, because our joy is really about this moment right now. If you asked me, would I really be happy right now than 10 years ago? I would always say right now. Do overs don't work, and that's not what we're about. But what we do have a chance at is second chances. That's where it works. Because if you want to do a do over, you will end up getting exactly what you had before. When you utilize your second chance, that's when life moves on. Bottom line, guys, is we can't relive the past, but we can take the feelings and what we've learned, and we can create new moments that will bring us back to the same powerful emotions that we want to duplicate from the past. And that is why summertime is so powerful for us. It should not, though, remain just a childhood memory. It should be a now memory. As I've shared many times in this podcast, the past is gone. It's never going to return. The future, on the other hand, is an unknown in every way. But right now in the summer of 2025, it's time for us to make space. Right now, right there, where we are today. We're not kids anymore, and that's okay. You know, kids had 2 months off from school, and they also had zero responsibility. We don't. That's gone. But on the other hand, we have something better. We have the freedom to choose. We have the freedom to decide to take any day, any hour, or even any moment and do what we want and make it count. My question to you guys is very simple. What's the one thing you can do this summer or this week that brings back the feeling you loved as a kid? Remember, we're trying to recreate the feelings, not the moment. Because life gives us second chances, but never do-overs. And that's a gift, not a curse. Guys, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for spending time with me once again on Take Two with Freddy. If this hit home, share it with a friend you think may need a reminder that their best moments aren't behind them. And if you really got something out of it, please like and subscribe. And that's it for this week. So until next time, remember, if I didn't walk it, I don't talk it.